Hello, free speech and the challenge of social media students. Dr. Conway here for lesson 4. Week 4, lesson 4 is a week where we pause a little bit from getting into the content of the subject matter and focus a little bit on taking a little bit of a break in week 4 and focusing on what we're going to need to do when we do our first video assignment in week 7 prior to our midterm break. Don't forget, week 6 is your quiz 2, and then week 7 is your first video assignment, okay? So week 4 was a chance to kind of take a break before we move into the next chapter of our narrative on free speech and the challenge of social media, and we start to think about thinking a little bit ahead as to what you're going to have to do for your first assignment. So we have videos and readings for this week that focus on how you mechanically do a video with even the most basic equipment like a cell phone, all right, and how do you prepare a video. But my lesson for this week focuses a little bit about what you're going to have to think about for your scripted part of your scripted video assignment for week 7. Okay, so let's take up that point right now, okay? And the lessons for the week is called Developing Effective YouTube Videos, a first look at the steps. But my emphasis here is less on the technical aspects of that, which you get from other YouTube videos which I've posted and reading materials. But for now, I just want you to focus on what I'm going to talk about in terms of preparing your scripted part and how that translates into your video, all right? So let's look at that now for a moment, okay? So the first step in doing any kind of a public presentation, in this case it's a public presentation through video, but nevertheless, it's still a public presentation, right? And so one of the skills you're learning through this course in addition to media literacy is learning, practicing your public presentation skills, which is essentially what this is about, all right? Now keep in mind that I fully recognize that some people may be a little more, so shall we say, cautious about speaking publicly, or a little bit more shy in speaking publicly on a video and so on. That won't knock you down as long as I see you've put the effort into the scripted part and you do deliver your message, even if it's more low key or whatever, right? So don't rely on that as a crutch, because that's why there are 2 components to the assignment. One is the written script and one is the video. Okay, I take them both into account. All right. So if you're not really confident yet on public speaking, it doesn't mean you can't do well on your video text, right? And some people are better at speaking in a public setting than they are in writing, so it tries to balance the 2, okay? Keeping that in mind, let's focus on the steps that you need to think about to prepare for your video, in particular preparing the video script, okay? I give you the subject area for your scripted video via question and sub-questions, right? For example, I might ask, which I am in the first video, should free speech ever be controlled in a democratic society? If so, why, where, and to what degree? If not, why not? And would this make society better off? Right? So this is the question I'm asking. But obviously, you have a choice to make, because this is too broad of a question to be able to respond to in its entirety in a 5-minute video, right? So what you need to do is you need to come at it with your cut on the subject matter, okay? Your perspective, okay? So you need to choose your unique topic or your unique approach to the subject matter, all right? How are you going to approach the professor's questions? What will you emphasize? Because that's what's going to be required, right? You have a broad topic, and it could be attacked from any number of different, I could write a book on that if I wanted to, right? But you have to come at it with something that is a cogent, clear message in 5 minutes on a subject that's broad. So you need to take an approach or a topic that you're going to pick as it being indicative of your feeling about the professor's question, okay? For instance, you might start off your script by saying, I'm going to address one particular aspect of these questions. That issue is of hate speech, and go from there, right? Or it could be on some of the things we're going to cover in lessons 5 and 6. It could be the fact that you feel that social media should have better eudemic value or positive value or constructive value for humanity or education or learning. So you will have two other lectures 5 and 6, which will help you a lot in determining what cut you want to take or what topic or subject angle or approach you want to take to the professor's question, okay? In that case, me, all right? So keep that in mind, right? The second step is you have to conduct your research, gather your facts. If there's one thing we're learning through education in media literacy, is one of the major problems we often have in the social media context is statements which are opinions not backed by fact, right? And we don't want to continue to contribute to that sort of a long line of conspiracy theories or other sort of statements that are sort of emotive as opposed to being rational, okay? Are devoid of fact as opposed to being factual, all right? So we want our videos, we want to practice at being factual. In 5 minutes, we therefore need to identify some of the key facts that are involved in the approach that we're taking to the professor's question, right? We need to, for example, if we're saying, if our topic, let's just continue, and I'm not encouraging everybody to do this question of hate speech, quite the contrary, in fact, okay? I want you to come up with your own, if you use the hate speech angle, but it's not required. You can approach it any way you think you want to answer the professor's question, all right? As long as you're doing it in a courteous, professional manner, that's okay. That's why we're interested in free speech, correct? So, but we do demand in free speech that it be backed by facts, right? If we're going to deal with the problems that we're encountering in social media, one key way of dealing with that is insist upon factual evidence when people make these claims. And if they don't base their claims in factual evidence, then we have to assume it's untruthful. Or, if they do back it in factual claims and we're convinced we're in the facts, we can conclude that at least in part this is a truthful statement. And that's what we're after in social media, right? If we ever want to save free speech and social media, or save free speech from social media, we're going to have to be able to, interpret facts, right? And portray facts effectively. So you need to know the facts of your topic as far as that is possible. Obviously, you don't need to write a book, but you need to have some key facts to convince people that what you say in your 5-minute video is in fact based in truthfulness, all right? So even if you don't know all the facts, you need to present some convincing facts, or at least strongly indicative facts, okay? Try to get the most current and up-to-date facts on your topic. Statistics and references can add value to your video, right? You want to be convincing and factually accurate. Okay, if we started there in social media, just on this question, if we started there, we would have a lot less controversy with social media, wouldn't we, right? If we were able to educate ourselves as to how to read social media content from a critical perspective in terms of its factual integrity, right? The third step is to know your audience. You have to think about your audience, right? You can't just generate ideas and not think about who you're presenting them to, right? All relationships involve at least two, right? So, unless you've got two people in your head, right? Sometimes I talk to myself. But at the end of the day, it takes two, right? And you have to understand what your audience is going to receive when you deliver, right? So therefore, you have to understand your audience. For our assignments, I'm going to present a proposition that we all assume you are talking to graduating high school students, okay? That's the level you're talking to, all right? Many of you that wasn't that far ago for you, right? So let's deal with that. Let's say now, having taken a course in media literacy, you're talking back to some colleagues or friends that are going to be graduating from high school, and you're portraying the messages to them. That's what you want to think, okay? What interests, concerns, and needs does your target audience have, right? What might motivate them or turn them off, right? That does not mean that you don't take on challenging issues of the day. That's not what I'm saying. But you can design your delivery of ideas and the facts about them in a way that does not unnecessarily turn off or antagonize an audience, right? Your audience are the ones you want to rally to action or to encourage to rethink. Keep that firmly in your mind. Rally to action or encourage to rethink. right? That needs to be firmly kept in mind. But you can't convince people if you're not talking their language, if you're not sensitive to their concerns, their issues, their worries, and so on, all right? Make sure your message is clear, concise, to the point, and not open to different interpretations about what exactly was said and for what objective. And that's where facts are also very important. If you start laying out specific facts, it's very difficult for a person reading or viewing your content to misinterpret what you're really saying. How many times in life do we have, somebody say something and it's too general, it seems very insightful, but it's too general and unfocused, and you can have 3 people in the room and all 3 people have a different perspective on what the person just said, okay? You have to be clear and concise, right? So that the viewer understands exactly what it is you're trying to say, and there's no opportunity for miscommunication. Another step 4, is what's called grab your audience's attention, right? It is always good to snap your audience to attention. Not in the military sense, stand it to attention, but no, hey, I'm interested in this unique take on the subject. That's what you want your audience to say. Whoa, okay, I'm interested in this interesting perspective. Let's hear what this person has to say, right? This can be achieved in numerous ways, such as starting a presentation off with a surprising factoid, like, did you know that there are more people alive today than have ever died? It's true, okay? So you look at that and you kind of go, wow, hey, that's really interesting. Where's this going, right? And so you get that momentum moving, right? So, or you might use a visual aid, like a surprising graph or picture that you quickly explain and then segue into a talk. I know you don't have all the text, so you might hold up a chart or a figure very quickly to the screen and say, or hold it like this and kind of go, did you know, blah, 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 hold it there long enough where they can see the trend line, but not too much detail in the graph because it has to be visual, right? So it could show just a line going up or whatever, but not too many small numbers on the graph, things that they can't read quickly in a YouTube video for which you only have 5 minutes, and you can't keep that graph up there for a full minute of your 5 minutes, right? So it has to be readable, right? Attention getters are needed, but must be selected carefully as not too off topic or too aggressive, right? Make sure they're not off topic or too aggressive. Make sure you can segue from whatever you do into your core topic very quickly without having to explain the connections. The connections need to be obvious, all right? Remember that the attention getter is not for attention itself. It is for preparing your audience to receive your message. So it needs to be suitable to the audience and not to profile yourself. It's not about profiling yourself. It's about profiling the ideas you're going to convey, all right? In fact, it's better if you don't include yourself in the attention getter, but rather focus the attention getter on the content that you're about to portray, all right? For one example, if your topic is on hate and social media, again, I'm not encouraging that. These are just examples. You take the cut you want to take at it, all right? You might have a picture of a shocked person sitting at a computer who might otherwise be subject to hateful attacks due to race, religion, etc. All right? That might be one. That's just one example, right? There could be there's all numerous. I could sit and we could list dozens of different ways of approaching it. But you get the point, right? You have to, right at the start of your video, boom, you have to capture the attention. Just like in a speech. When a politician gives a speech, that first 3 or 4 statements, right, of a politician is to bring focus to the talk and to bring attention to the message that's about to be conveyed. It's no different if a business leader does it, or an NGO leader does it, or a politician does it. It's the same principles apply. All right. Now, step 5, you have to create your script, right? And, keeping the other points I just made in mind, you have to create your script. Your script should be highly focused, right? No comments or ideas that are not strictly related to the topic and making your point about the topic, all right? Keep your sentences short and punchy. No long sentences that you must read through. Those invariably lose an audience, all right? If you're sitting there and they can tell you're reading through a long sentence, it's going to look contrived or unfocused, or you're going to appear to lack confidence in your message. These kinds of things are bad things, right? No, don't mistake, a script for the slides that I have to present that do have long sentences in them. That's because the college requires that long sentences be readable, very much like an essay text for slides, right? Normally when I would be presenting slides to a professional audience in my field of work, the slides would be very short, punchy lines, and I would speak to those slides, all right? In the case of Algonquin slides, where we put in the full sentences because students are learning the subject matter and they won't have all my notes or everything that's in my head, right? So yours needs to be punchy, okay? Punchy sentences, right? That you're going to speak to, right? So it has to come off. It has to come off as your language, but it has to come off as your language as if you're not searching for your language. It's just a boom, 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 boom. Okay, the message, all right? So just a sense of timing. Generally, 30 seconds of video will typically require about 5 to 7 assertions. An assertion would be that, did you know that more people are alive today than have ever died, would be an assertion, right? That took me, 2-3 seconds? So you can imagine, right? 5 to 6. So if you've got 5 minutes, you have time to say a lot. So don't rush. You have time, 5 minutes, you can say a lot, okay? Particularly if it's well planned, and you're going to occupy some of that time maybe with some picture, a graph, or something that interests you. Remember, what I'm teaching you here is how to be convincing in a public communication setting. That skill transcends this course. Its skill is going to be valuable to you no matter where you go and what your career is, okay? So, but what we're trying to do is learn how to do it in this context, okay? And it's better to memorize your script, right? Or as much as possible memorize it so you don't rely on too much on the reading, right? That you can deliver it. Now, if that's not possible, be sure to keep your lines short and punchy and highlight the key points so you have it on your screen when you're talking and you don't have to read for long periods of time. You can just kind of, boom, deliver it, all right? And don't have your audience fishing for facts and long-winded explanations, right? Like, make your, if there's something as complex and more long-winded, deliver it in small chunks. But deliver it, boom, punchy, 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 not did you know what I did on my summer vacation, blah, 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 right? We don't want that, okay? Because you will lose. In a social media environment, in a public communication environment where everybody has so many demands, so much information flow hitting them all the time, it's important that you achieve 2 things. Good, punchy deliver of factual information that is seen to be truthful. Okay, that's the key, right? The key messages that I'm giving you. Then in step 6, you practice your script, right? Right? I know it can seem exciting. Oh, I can't wait to record this, right? I can't wait, right? I'm excited to get in front of the camera. Look, I belong in Hollywood, right? But the fact of the matter is that before you get in front of your camera, you need to practice your script, right? You need to practice the delivery of your script, all right? I do this on a professional basis, right, for years, so I can prepare something, deliver it. But if you're not accustomed to doing this, you have to prepare your script and you have to practice your script, all right? This is particularly true for people who are less comfortable in speaking in public, okay, or before a camera. That, by the way, can be overcome, right? That definitely is one of those things in life that you can overcome to become a good public speaker, right? But initially, practice your script, and then you feel more confident when you get in front of the camera. I know what I'm talking about here, okay? And you deliver it, right? So work on clear pronunciation, timely voice inflection, right? Around key message and timing from start to finish. Voice inflection means if you're about to make a key point, did you know that, right? Or did you know that, depending upon what the intent is for that particular message you're about to deliver, all right? So practice a bit more, and then when you film as many times as you like to make sure you feel proud of what you've delivered, okay? So these are some of the absolute key messages that I can convey. So this week, focus on thinking through what, getting yourself mentally ready for preparing your script and delivering your video. That's not for a few more weeks, but I wanted to break this week to give you a chance to focus on the technology a little bit, focus on, thinking about how you're going to present yourself a little bit. And then in 5 and 6, we have more content that you may be able to use to answer that question, in addition to the content we already received from the previous 2 lessons on law and restrictions on free speech. So you'll have lots of material, right? And then in week 7, you prepare your video. And then week 8, we have a break, right? And then we come back and we continue our program of study, right, on free speech and the challenge of social media, which is really a social media literacy course, right? But with a sharp eye on the importance of seeing social media as both important to and a challenge to free speech, okay? So on that score, I'll let you go, gang, and we'll see you again soon, okay? Take care for now and have a good week. Bye-bye now.